Good evening, and thanks for joining us. I'm Major General Jim Lukeman, the President and CEO of the Marine Corps Heritage Foundation. And tonight, we'll talk a little bit about what your foundation is doing here at the National Museum of the Marine Corps and beyond the walls of the National Museum. And I'll preview a significant milestone coming up that I'm sure you'll all want to be a part of as well. That opening video, that preview tour of the museum, is something we created for our virtual tour. I'll talk about that a little bit more later as well, but it's a great motivational video for the museum. Before we go any further, I want to thank you all for the support you give to the Marine Corps Heritage Foundation. Everything we do as a foundation is because of your support. From the creation of this museum to the programs we support, none of it would be possible without you. Our mission to preserve and share the history, tradition, and culture of the Marine Corps and educate all Americans in its virtues wouldn't be possible without your support. I really wish that sometimes you could be here with us in the museum and see what this place has created. I mean, it's not unusual for us to come in sometimes and see 6 or 7 busloads of middle school children from South Carolina or Pennsylvania or Ohio pile off the buses into the museum, take a couple hours to tour, maybe see a movie in the theater, go get something to eat in Devil Dog Diner, and then pile back on the buses, going away much smarter about the Marine Corps than they were before they came. But this is really a place for veterans. And it's really touching to see veterans come through here with their families, with their spouses, children, and grandchildren. And sometimes for the first time, hear the stories that their Marine hasn't told them before their opportunity to do it here in the museum. This is a really special place, much more than just the bricks and mortar. It's a place to create memories, and it wouldn't be possible without all of you. So thank you for being a part of that. Tonight, we'll talk about what the foundation's doing, but we'll also have an opportunity to answer your questions. There's a Q&A feature in Zoom that you can use to ask us questions as the event's going on, and I'll be happy to answer them as much as we can during the time we have tonight. I mentioned that we've talked about going beyond the walls of the museum. We recognize that not everybody is going to be able to make it here. So we've started taking action to reach Americans across the country. The Director Emeritus of the museum, Lynn Ezell, is the curator of a traveling art exhibit that is now traveling across the country. Lynn has created a short video to tell you about this traveling art exhibit, and we're going to play that video now. Take it away, Lynn.
Hi, I'm Lynn Ezell. I was the first director of the National Museum of the Marine Corps, where we're filming today, and it's a great place. Now, I retired but flunked retirement and was invited back to manage the museum's first traveling art exhibition program. And in fact, today we're standing outside the Combat Art Gallery at the museum, which opened in 2017. When we decided to take some art on the road, we decided to go back to that very first show, which looks at Marine Corps life after Vietnam, and choose a subset of that art to travel. So 36 works of art by 15 artists are currently on the road. Now, we opened in Pima, Air and Space Museum outside Tucson at the height of the pandemic, and we were there several months, but what a great place to be. From there, we moved to Texas, Fredericksburg, to the National Museum of the Pacific War. Now, we had an inn there because the CEO of their foundation was a former commandant. So we were welcomed with open arms. Next stop was in Southwest Utah, the St. George Art Museum. Totally different focus, different kind of audience, expecting great art, and they got it. From there, we came back east to the National Museum of the Air Force in Dayton, Ohio, where we have been seen by thousands of people. Now, why bring Marine Corps art to the Air Force Museum? It's because of the commonality of the experiences reflected in the Marine Corps art that's on display. It's a good fit. From there, we're going to go to Northern California, to Redding, California, in one of the 7 northern counties of the state, and we'll be at the Turtle Bay Exploration Park and Museum on the Sacramento River. Beautiful place, and we can't wait to be there. And our sixth and final location will be College Station, Texas, where we'll be at the George Bush Presidential Library and Museum for about 6 months. And then what do you do after that? Well, I think we'll have to have a second show. And we're starting to put together some good ideas now. We hope that you'll see us and our art when we're out on the road. And if you're in Northern Virginia, please come to the National Museum of the Marine Corps. The art gallery is currently hosting a visiting show by Mary White. Absolutely worth coming to. And I hope that we'll see you soon. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Lynn. And just an update to what Lynn said, the show is open now at the Turtle Bay Exploration Park and Museum in Redding, California. And the Combat Art Gallery here in the museum, the show that was there for Mary White has been changed out, and the show that's going in now is 80 years of combat art. So if you come here now, that's what you'll see here at the museum. I'm going to talk now about some of the projects that the foundation's working on, and I'm going to share my screen and show you some pictures of that while we go through. So if we could share the screen now, David, I'll take it from here. Okay, first thing I want to talk about is our Semper Fidelis Memorial Park. So Semper Fidelis Memorial Park, go ahead. Yeah, there you go. Thanks, David. Semper Fidelis Memorial Park is adjacent to the museum, and there's over a mile of paved pathway lined by commemorative bricks and monuments and statues. You want to give me that mouse so I can work it? Thanks, Sarah. Okay. All right, now we're working. So the park also includes a chapel, a couple of beautiful overlooks. And these are scenes where Marines can do retirements, promotions, weddings, other things out in Semper Fidelis Memorial Park. The park is also a place for monuments and statues. There's statues to Chesty Puller, John Lejeune, Sergeant Reckless. There's a monument to battles such as Chosin. It's just a great place to reflect on Marine Corps history as we go through our park. This is a map of what the park looks like right now. We've got to the point where there's really no more room in the park for monuments, and we're almost out of room for our bricks to put in the park. And we don't yet have space for monuments to the more recent operations the Marine Corps has been a part of. So we made the decision to expand Semper Fidelis Memorial Park. We kicked off with a groundbreaking last year, and the park will connect into the existing park in two places. This is a diagram of the planned park expansion that you're looking at right now. It'll provide place for more monuments, more bricks, and more places for people to experience the Marine Corps history. The park's going to have a couple of great features. It'll have this pedestrian footbridge that crosses the wetlands. It's going to have another bridge crossing the wetlands as well, and we're actually going to use a Marine Corps medium girder bridge. Many of you probably know that the Marine Corps has vested itself of the bridging capability. So we were able to acquire a medium girder bridge from the Marine Corps, which will be placed in the park as a usable bridge forever. So it's a great piece of Marine Corps history. One of the other great features of our park expansion is going to be a pavilion. You'll recognize the architecture of this pavilion because it looks a lot like our chapel. The pavilion will be a place in our park, in our expanded park, for small ceremonies and just a place to reflect. And you'll see it'll have a great view of the museum when it's built. We expect to complete this project this year. So it's underway now. They're cutting down trees down there today. And I look forward to giving you more updates on it as we go through, but we'll have that park done this year. Next thing I want to talk about is the upgrade to our rifle range inside the museum. Again, thanks to the support from donors, we've been able to renovate and update our rifle range. We have a laser range inside the gallery of the museum. And we were able to not only change the whole operating system inside it, but renovate the inside of the rifle range. And one of the best features now is you get a choice of rifles to use when you test your marksmanship on the range. You can use a World War II M1, or you can use the rifle used in Vietnam, an M16, or you can choose to fire a current rifle of the Marine Corps, the M4. So the upgrade to the rifle range is a tremendous improvement, and we're excited about that. Last thing I'll talk about is what most of you are interested in, is opening of a couple more galleries here in the museum itself. We call them galleries 13 and 14, but what they are is they're the galleries that cover from the end of the Vietnam War, 1976, up through today. So it's two galleries, one that covers from 1976 to 2001, and the other one that covers from 2001 until today. The museum staff and the Marine Corps are working very hard to complete these galleries. This is an artist's rendition of what part of the gallery will look like. This is a Desert Storm tank. Another artist's rendition is this artillery piece from Desert Storm. Now let me show you what it looks like today. This is actually a view from the balcony above that gallery. The balcony is open to the public right now, so if you come visit the museum, you can actually watch our construction that's going on. But the tank in the back corner that you see there, the M60 tank, that's actually the first Marine Corps tank that crossed the border into Kuwait in February of 1991. Next to it, you'll see this Amtrak. In this part of the museum, the display will show the deployments that Marines went on in the 80s and 90s. And for those of us that spent time on ship during that time, you'll recognize what's in this gallery right away. Moving over towards the Afghanistan and Iraq exhibit, that's an F-18 that you see flying through the museum, and below it will be operations in Afghanistan. So as you walk into the gallery, you'll actually walk under the F-18 and learn about the operations in Afghanistan starting in 2001. It may be a little hard for you to see, but on the back of the screen there's an MRAP, a mine-resistant ambush protected vehicle that was actually hit by an IED in Afghanistan. That's part of the display. Moving over towards the Iraq portion, again, these are views from the balcony in the museum today. You'll see that these are snipers on the roof. You'll see a light armored vehicle in the background from the march up to Baghdad, and a road sign pointing to Baghdad as well. This was an artist's rendition of what they anticipated the Fallujah portion of the exhibit looking like. And this is a picture of what it looks like today. Guests will be able to move down the alley and move through experience the history of the Operation Iraqi Freedom in this gallery. Now, the key question, of course, is when will the gallery be completed? It looks great right now, and there's an awful lot of work to still be done. And as I said, the museum staff and Marine Corps are working very hard to complete it. The current estimate is that the gallery will be open to the public in 2025. So we're still about 2 years away. But please come to the museum, watch our progress, and we'll keep you posted as it goes along. I mentioned that we recognize that not everybody's going to get here to the National Museum of the Marine Corps, and we want to be able to reach the rest of the country with the history, tradition, and culture of the Marine Corps. So Lynn talked about that traveling art exhibition that's out there. I got a couple shots of it at a couple of museums just to show you. This is the exhibit out in St. George, Utah, at an art museum there. Another shot of that. Here's the exhibit at the United States Air Force Museum in Dayton, Ohio. Similarly, another shot in Dayton. And then the exhibit today is in Redding, California at the Turtle Bay Exploration Park and Museum. And these are pictures from that exhibit today. I hope that some of you have had a chance to either see it when it's been near you, or you get a chance to see it as well. The next stop, as Lynn said, is going to be the George H.W. Bush Library and Museum in College Station, Texas. It'll move there somewhere around the 1st of June and be there for most of the rest of the year. I want to talk a little bit about the virtual tour, another way that we're reaching out to those that can't make it to the museum. That teaser video at the top is part of it. But what we've done is gone through the museum with the 360 camera and taken the pictures and pieced it all together so that you can now move through the museum on your computer screen with a click of a mouse, and you can spin right and left, look up and down, zoom in on something or zoom out and continue your tour. You can also click on specific artifacts and learn more about that artifact or see a better picture of it. So this virtual tour is going to be incredible. Again, it's not quite ready yet, but I think we'll have it here later this spring, and we'll be sure to let you know when it's complete and ready for prime time. So that's something to look forward to. The last thing I want to talk about is, I hinted before, was a significant milestone coming up, and we can stop sharing slides now. Thanks. So the 250th birthday is coming up in 2025. And while that may seem like a long way away, we at the Marine Corps Heritage Foundation are already planning for that. We want to make sure that this significant milestone, we are able to reach every American with what's best about the Marine Corps. We want to share what the Marine Corps has done for our country for the last 250 years and what we will do for the next 250 years. We want to make sure that we honor the service of all Marines and make them proud of being a Marine in 2025. And not just what the Marine Corps has done for the country, but we want to share what Marines have done for the country. So many Marines serve a few years, get out, and go on to be very successful, either in business or in the community as a leader, or as a teacher, or a firefighter, or a policeman, or some other role in their community. We want to make sure that those unsung heroes, the Marine next door, who's been a great person in the community, is well known by America. So we've got plans right now. We're working on how to do that across the country. I know you share that goal, and we'll be letting you know how you can help us with that as we go forward. It's going to be an exciting year, and I can't wait. So we're looking forward to that 250th birthday. What I'd like to do now is move to some of the question and answer period of the event tonight. Thank you for submitting questions ahead of time. Those of you that did that, I'll talk to some of those first while we let those who have questions right now go ahead and send them in on Zoom if they want to, and we'll have somebody looking for those. But let me take a couple of the questions that we got ahead of time and try to answer those for you. So we did get several questions about when the new galleries will be open and what's new and next here in the museum. So let me tell you about some of the great things that are going on here. I mentioned the galleries for the 80s and 90s and Operation Iraqi Freedom and Operation Enduring Freedom. And so we showed you where they are, and you can come see the construction right now. But there's some other things going on in here at the museum as well that the museum staff has put together. There's an exhibit downstairs right now on Marines in space. And you'd be surprised how many Marines have been to space or part of the space program who are in the space program right now. As a matter of fact, who are in space right now as we speak. There's an exhibit on the second floor of combat photography. Photographs taken by combat Marine photographers. That's a recent exhibition as well, and it gets changed every year. So that's always current photos of what's going on in the Marine Corps. And then there are works as well for a changing gallery here in the museum that'll be coming at some time in the next couple of years. That'll be a place for rotating galleries to show in the museum itself. So that's what's coming up here in the museum. Take another question from what was sent ahead of time. The question is, when will my brick be installed in the park? Okay, so we install bricks 3 times a year. In May, we have our next install. There's another install in September, another one in the winter. So depending on when you bought your brick, that's when it'll be in the museum and put in the ground. So if you have a question about your specific brick, send us a note or give us a call, and we can tell you exactly when your brick's going in the ground and where it's going to be out in the park. We got several questions regarding taking the museum on the road so that people who can't make it here can experience the museum. So I talked some about how we're trying to do that right now with the traveling art exhibit and the virtual tour. Larger than that, taking an exhibit of artifacts from the museum on the road, there's no plans to do that right now. It could be something that happens as part of our 250th celebration. We don't know yet, but that's a possibility. So right now, we've got the traveling art exhibit out there and the virtual tour about to come online. So that's what we got going right now as far as bringing the museum to you. Next question we got ahead of time is, what else do we as a foundation do besides build the museum? And how do we decide what we do as a foundation? That's a great question. Let me take the second one first. How we decide what we do as a foundation is within our mission. So our mission is to preserve and share the history, tradition, and culture of the Marine Corps and educate all Americans in its virtues. So if the activity fits that mission, then we'll take a look and see if we can do it. As to what we do besides build the museum, there's an awful lot your foundation does besides build the museum. I talked about a few of those at the top, but let me tell you some of the other things we do that are really important here at the museum. And one is the support to education programs. The museum itself is a tremendous educational resource, and the foundation has a great investment in the education here. We have a program called the Teacher in Residence Program. We actually hire 2 full-time public school teachers to work here in the museum full-time, thanks to the counties surrounding the museum that have entered into agreement with us to be able to do that. But those teachers not only teach here in the museum, but they take their classes to the high schools and middle schools around the counties surrounding the museum. We also support the museum in their homeschool program, which happens very frequently here in the museum. And with the distance learning program through Distance Learning Studios that can reach classes across the country. So being able to use the resources here at the museum through education is tremendously important, and it's something your foundation's heavily invested in. We also recognize other work for students. We have a student art competition every year, and the winners from different age groups their art is posted here in the National Museum of the Marine Corps for a year. So that's a tremendous opportunity for students to do art related to the Marine Corps. We also have a student concerto competition where student musicians, the finalists, come here to Washington, D.C. and perform with the President's own Marine Band. The winner actually plays a solo performance with the President's own Marine Band. So we're proud to sponsor that student concerto competition with the President's own. We participate in the National History Day competition and sponsor an award there as well. Further, your Marine Corps your Marine Corps Heritage Foundation preserves the history of the Marine Corps through many other ways. Digitization of the film that the Marine Corps archives hold, we're taking care of all that right now. Through research grants to fill in gaps in the Marine Corps history, through the purchase of artifacts for the museum, to the recognizing the best in journalism, literature, art, and photography through our annual awards program with the Heritage Foundation. So there's a lot the foundation does. We also support the museum financially with hired positions, certain maintenance, and other things. That's how the foundation works day to day here in the museum. I'll take one of the questions, then I'll see if I'll take some from the audience. Let me do one quick question, and then we'll take a couple from the audience. The first one I want to talk about here that I have is how do I donate things to the museum and how do I volunteer at the museum? The quick answer to that is there's a website that the National Museum of the Marine Corps has. So if you go to that website, it'll tell you what the museum's looking for in the way of artifacts, and it'll also tell you how to donate what you have or contribute to the museum. And if you want to volunteer to support the museum, there's also a link on their website for that tells you how to volunteer to be a supporter here. So, Rebecca, what do we got from online audience tonight?
Do you intend to create a database for locating my brick?
The question is, do we intend to create a database for locating your brick? Matter of fact, we have a database for locating your brick, and you can access it through our website. You'll find my brick on our website. You can go there and punch in your name, and it'll tell you exactly where your brick is. When you come here to the museum, we actually print you out a map that'll show you exactly where your brick is in the park. And if you ever have any difficulty here at the museum with using either the kiosk that we have that you can use or your own mobile device, just come on upstairs to the foundation office and we'll tell you exactly where your brick is. Thanks for that question.
Is there a best time of the day or week to visit the museum?
So the question is there a best time of the day or week to visit the museum? And the answer is every day is a great day to visit the museum. So I think it depends what you're looking for. You know, Tun Tavern and our Double Dog Diner upstairs, the restaurants, they're open from 11 to 4 each day. So if you're interested in coming and get something to eat, come between 11 and 4. If you're interested in beating the crowds, come early. The museum's open every day except Christmas from 9 to 5. Absolutely free parking. You know when it's busy here, if you want to see some stuff going on, is around the 1st of the month, because this is a perfect place for promotions. And marine promotions typically take place on the 1st of the month. So there's always promotion ceremonies here in the National Museum on the 1st of the month.
Does the foundation reach out to active duty USMC bases and stations to educate active duty Marines about the mission of the foundation?
So the question was, do we reach out to active duty bases and stations and Marines to educate them about the foundation? What we do in that regard is we help support professional military education. It's called PME. So the units really do that. They bring their Marines here to the museum, and the museum staff will take them on a tour and actually do an educational PME for them here at the museum. So that's more Marine Corps than foundation work. But we've supported Marines requests for things in the past, and we will. So if it's a question about something specific, just give us a call. We'll see if we can take care of it. Let me take one other question from ahead of time while we look to see if there's any others from the audience. Oh, this is a good question. So the question is, how do I have a reunion at the museum, and do you allow non-military events at the museum? The museum's a great place for a reunion. We have a lot of them here because it's such a great place for Marines to get together and talk about their service. And the answer is, can you do a non-military event here at the museum? Absolutely. Our events team at the foundation does over 300 events a year, from weddings up in the chapel to a reception down in the museum, to a retirement ceremony, a promotion ceremony, just a function, a corporate function in our boardroom or in Levinet Gallery. I mean, there are so many spaces here that we can be used in the museum for that. We talked about Tun Tavern. You can have an event in there. We have gala dinners in the main gallery of the museum. We've actually had high school proms in the museum. So our events team can do anything. They can help you plan your reunion. They can give you the information you need. So you can reach them on our website, marineheritage.org. Go to the events team, and Nicole and her team will help you plan whatever it is here at the museum.
So there was originally a virtual tour a few years back. What are the differences between the new virtual tour and the original virtual tour?
So the question is about the difference between the old virtual tour that we had 5-10 years ago and the new virtual tour. The real difference is technology. So we found that the old virtual tour didn't even work much anymore on today's computers. The technology that was used to create the older virtual tour is clunky and isn't as smooth as what we have now. We did steal a lot of the same information and photographs and things from the old virtual tour and put it into our new one. But when you see this one, you'll be able to see that you can move seamlessly through the museum. And as I said, spin around left, right without having to push a button. You just move your mouse and you can look left, right, up, down, zoom in, zoom out. And it's really smooth. So I think what you see is just improved technology that we've been able to do for the virtual tour. And higher resolution images as well. So you'll be able to really zoom in and read things on the walls in the museum as you go through.
Will you be offering the concert series again this summer?
So we got a question about whether we're offering a concert series this summer here in the museum. For those of you that have been to one of them, what we do in the evenings in the summer, usually Thursday evening at 7 p.m., we'll host one of the military bands to do a concert for free out in front of the museum. We got a great summer planned for that. Every other Thursday this summer, we booked a band, and in August, we booked almost every Thursday. So I think we've got 9 different dates reserved right now for the summer concert series, including the President's Own and the Commandant's Own. So we're going to have a tremendous summer here on the plaza out in front of the museum. You bring your own folding chair, set it up, bring something to drink, or we got refreshments for sale out front as well. It's just a great evening to spend on a summer Thursday night. Okay, let me take another question from ahead of time. We got several questions ahead of time about the future of the Marine Corps, the end strength of the Marine Corps, and that kind of thing. So that's really not our area of expertise at the foundation. And I'd recommend that if you want to know what's going on in the Marine Corps with Force Design 2030 and the future of the Marine Corps, go to marines.mil and get the straight scoop from the Marine Corps about that. But let me tell you, I retired just under 3 years ago. And your Marine Corps today is still the finest fighting force on the face of the earth. Marines are ready to meet any challenge, any foe, and do whatever it takes, as they have been for 250 years, and they will be for the next 250 years. It's just incredible how we still attract the best young men and women from the country who want the challenge to be a Marine, and how Marines at Parris Island, San Diego, and Quantico transform them into Marines. You should be very proud of your Marine Corps. So I've got about one more question, and then we'll wrap this thing up tonight. Question is, how can I support the foundation? That's a great question. That sounds like a plant to me. But anyway, how can I support the foundation? There's a lot of ways you can support the foundation. Certainly you can support the foundation financially, and we appreciate all of that. And that's easy to do, either by sending us a check or calling us or going online to contribute that way. There's also other ways you can support financially, whether that's a distribution from your IRA or a stock gift, or by purchasing a brick or sponsoring a bench or a tree in the park. It's also legacy gifts through estates and trusts, which are a tremendous way to support the foundation without writing a check today. We have staff members that can help you with any of those donations, or to purchase a brick or a bench or any of those things. So just reach out to us on the website for that. The other way you can support is by sharing the mission of the Marine Corps Heritage Foundation with your friends and others that share that interest. The more you can talk about what we do here at the museum and invite people to come here, the more we can accomplish our mission of sharing what is best about the Marine Corps with the entire country. I really appreciate your time tonight to be able to talk to you about what your foundation's doing. Afterwards, for those that may have come in late or that somebody that missed it, we'll have this up on YouTube here soon so you can go back and check it out. But I want to thank you one more time for supporting the Marine Corps Heritage Foundation. I hope this was valuable for you. We'll do this again later on this year, but give us your feedback, please. We appreciate it. Have a good night and Semper Fi.